Good afternoon, everybody. It's Ian here from Spurs Diehards with my take on the remarkable events of Friday and the transfer of Morgan Gibbs-White to Tottenham Hotspur. So many of the transfers caught us all by surprise. And then was a bigger surprise was when the Forest owner Marinakis turned around and said, "I'm not sanctioning this. I need to take legal advice first and foremost." And the medical that was booked for Friday was abruptly cancelled, and there's been a state of abeyance ever since. But let's put this into some sort of context. My own background is in employment law, albeit I have no experience of advising in professional football and professional footballers' contracts, but I'm going to try and cut through a little bit about what might be in those contracts or what perhaps might not be. There's a couple of things, though, I think we need to point out that seems to have gone under the radar. The first thing is that Forest would undoubtedly have not intended to sell Morgan Gibbs-White under any circumstances this summer. Otherwise, I don't think for a minute they'd have let Elanga go to Newcastle United. And I think that's probably the thing that's frustrated them more than anything, that this has come totally under their radar, that they decided, for whatever reasons, financial or otherwise, they were letting one big player go. But then to find that Morgan Gibbs-White is leaving as well, would have just absolutely pulled the rug from a club that's had its biggest season in probably 40 years, qualified for Europe, etc. So I can absolutely understand Forest's frustration. The other thing is that their chairman is Nicholas Randall KC, who just happens to be a specialist in employment law and sports law. So that I actually see as a big advantage, because I think someone like that would hopefully be able to talk some common sense into the situation. Now, let's have a look. We've also seen, some of you would have seen Sky Andrews on TalkSport talking quite extensively about this, but as some people said, it's something of a word salad. I mean, he says, well, Spurs have bid £60 million, but they won't get the player for that because, the release clause must mean that they have to pay it up front, which it may or may not say. Also that Spurs would be getting a £100 million player for £60 million. So obviously they won't get him for £60 million. None of that makes any sense to me whatsoever. The key is what's in the release clause. Granted, there may be elements of confidentiality in contracts of employment. People talk about NDAs. No doubt all players have terms in their contracts of employment that say you can't talk about things that go on in the dressing room, disputes, arguments with managers, going to the papers and what have you. That would be pretty well a standard clause in any contract of employment for anybody in the public eye. And in fact, if you're looking at this and you work in an ordinary job in an ordinary company, even at a half senior level, you'll have something in your contract, I am sure, that says that you can't talk to the press or reveal during employment or even after employment things that you know or ought reasonably to know are confidential. So these are all very much standard terms in contracts of employment. The issue to me is what's in the release clause. We know from Crystal Palace that Eze's release clause was not only around £67 million, but that it had to be paid up front, and that Steve Parish has not really been playing ball with anybody on this in terms of that's the release clause, take it or leave it, and the selling club, of course, are entitled to do that. What we don't know is what's in Morgan Gibbs-White's release clause. If it says £60 million up front, then absolutely Forest can demand the £60 million up front. But if it's silent on that, I can't for the life of me work out why Forest would be entitled to say we're getting that £60 million up front or there's no deal, when you have a situation where the vast majority of transfers are done over a period of 3, 4 or 5 years. And if you compare that, say, with a recent deal that we've done with Mohamed Kudus from West Ham, his release clause was apparently £85 million, way in excess of the player's value. Spurs would appear to have been able to negotiate for all kinds of reasons. One, that Kudus doesn't really fit in with West Ham, but secondly, they needed to raise some money. That deal is apparently £55 million in 3 instalments. So my gut on this has always been the same. If there's been any breach in any event, nothing can preclude the player from signing a contract with Tottenham. It will only be a matter then of if there's been any illegal approach or whatever, then football has mechanisms to deal with that and potentially fine clubs or whatever. But Gibbs-White will become a Spurs player. My gut is that this will all be sorted out amicably. Maybe we'll give them a player on loan or something as a sweetener, and he will be a Spurs player before close of play on Wednesday night. We will be discussing this on Spurs Diehards tonight at 2200 hours UK time. That and some other, I think we've got some other information as well as to potential future incomings, etc. I hope this is a help anyway. Whether I'm proved right or not is another matter entirely.